All right. What's up?
What's up?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I'm glad to be back in Columbus. I have an unusual name. My first name is Samuel. Try that.
Samuel.
In Spanish, the vowels are flat and long. So Sam, Samuel, Shmuel becomes Samuel. Try that again.
Samuel.
Isn't that beautiful? It's just like damn well. It's like everything I do. Trust me. The last name is Betances. Try that.
Betances.
Now put both together.
Samuel Betances.
And that's why my students historically call me Dr. B. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, good to be here. If you could be so kind and turn off the technology, don't text. Please focus. I've got some stuff to share with you to add value to your leadership toolkit, because this is a very crucial time in American education when people believe that there are simple solutions to complicated problems. And I've got to tell you, there is not one approach, one strategy. We cannot be saved by simply looking at what is done in specialized centers and then somehow assume that that will work for everyone else. Are you with me?
Yes.
I mean, just imagine if the Chilean miners in San Jose, if they would have gone down there and somehow saved 6 of them,
Right.
and then claim that that is the solution. So whatever else is happening in charter schools, whatever else is happening in private school, whatever else is happening in the homeschooling enterprise, so be it, and let it work. But when the final measure of what works has to work, it has to work with us collectively together, making it happen. So in that spirit, I'm glad to be here. And I just want you to know that we have something to do that has never had to happen before in the history of American education. For the first time in history, we've got to ensure the academic success of students who come to school learning ready at the middle class level, at the same time that we've got to get ready those of us who are products of the hurtful consequences of poverty that have to ensure our success in middle class places of learning. And I've got to tell you, it's going to have to be all about relationships.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that Reg Weaver will be your speaker at the lunch hour. Reg and I used to work together in Illinois when we were both young. And good looking. And at least one of us continues in that tradition. So you look at my colleague and your former national president and compare us together, and you'll see what I mean. But Reggie's there, and I'm glad that he is here, and I'm glad that we will add value to your quest. I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of slides. We're going to go back to the title slide here. I work for Betances and Associates. We're located in Chicago. And what we do is that we are diversity consultants. That is to say, we get invited by leaders of organizations, like the associations, like unions, like management, in the corporate area, in education, in all kinds of fields, And we are asked to add value, to take a look at what are the research-based strategies that are likely to work. So I work in Chicago, and if you look at www.betances.com, you get an idea of what we do. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to chat with you about strategies for building relationships, from getting rid of the faulty assumptions that might keep us from doing what we need to do. So that's it. The overview is very, very simple. You need people like me to add value to what it is that you do. Why? Because people like me who came out of the bowels of poverty, products of violence, product of welfare, products of abandonment and abuse, racially mixed at a time when we did not celebrate the fact that God does not make junk. And if we are good enough for God, it's time we become good enough for each other and ourselves. If we need to reject anything, let's reject rejection. My qualifications: I'm an ex-student of poverty, a former high school dropout who earned 2 graduate degrees from Harvard. Between my wife and I, we have 44 years of formal education. So I want to talk to you, and I have insisted that my children become products of the public school system. All 3 of them. My learning goals are very simple. I want you to walk away with at least 3 new strategies to assist you in the quest to take urban students and make it possible for them to excel in ways that are not simplistic, in ways that are holistically, all of us working together. And that's the way we're going to do it. Now, if you could be so kind and read out loud with me. Quickly look up there on each of my right and my left, and please in one voice, 1, 2, read.
Not all students are middle class, but all assessment tools are.
Not all students are middle class, but all assessment tools are, and that's the rub. If the truth be known, what you've got to do, listen carefully, is to take students who are not middle class, who must excel in middle class platforms, for schools are middle class places of learning. And how we do that requires innovation, requires collaboration, requires relationships, and it's to that end that I want to add value to your quest. From Harlem to Harvard, lessons from the journey. So now that slide's going to go off, so I want you to look at me. I want you to look at, how'd I look? Not bad at 69, right? Man, they're looking good. Listen up, good folks. When you teach the tough topics, you got to take humor seriously. I'm not a clown. But I believe that when we teach the tough topics, we got to take humor seriously. So I am an edutainer. I use entertainment to educate so that we can get this thing done. I don't like clenched fists. To be honest with you, in this, I have never seen a more negative time in American politics than what we're going through right now.
That's right.
Everybody's saying that everybody's got shortcoming in their characters and that they all have frailties. Hello, welcome to the club. We're all human. It's not whether we have made mistakes and misjudgments, but what steps we take to correct them. That is what's going to determine the future. And so the whole idea that you can say, Sammy did that, and then he did that, and he did that. Hello, welcome to the club. In almost 70 years of life, you better believe that I've made some mistakes that I wish I had not made, but I have the opportunity to fix it. And what we've got to figure out is to develop relationships with real human beings with human flaws that together collectively are in the business of fixing it so we can get it done and do better and excel. I want you to look at me for a moment. If you could be so kind, don't give me your back right now. Look at me right now. I want you to look at me. My mama was very white, European looking. My daddy, he was black. Coarse hair, black skin, flat nose, full lips, not like Mick Jagger. But full lips. And my mama and daddy got together and look what they did. And that's why I look Arab. I'm not making fun of Arabs now. I'm just saying that sometimes all you got to do to be in trouble in somebody's eyes is to show up the way that God made you. I'm not telling you the truth. So if I look like the way God made me, it's amazing that when the closer we get to 9/11, the more scrutiny I get. Especially when I go overseas. And I got 3 million miles on American Airlines alone. And when I go overseas, especially, I go through these, what do you call it, metal detectors? And I walk through, and nothing rings. And then they say, step this way, please. I said, but nothing rang. But it's at random, sir. And I get more at random checks during that period. Why? Because according to Professor Jack Shaheen, Arabs are in the popular culture can be defined by the 3 B's, billionaires, belly dancers, or bombers. Black folks at prime time, historically, superstars in sports and superstars in crime. Native American Indians, savages in the 40s and 50s, drunkards in the 70s and 80s, and running casinos in the 90s. Mexicans, my goodness, they just came to this country last night and illegally. Those are the perceptions. Women, somehow, historically, when I grew up, were to play a supportive role, not a leadership role. If the truth be known, today, women constitute the biggest source of brain power in the United States of America. And women, not only are there more women than men in society, they're graduating from college more often. Keep it up. But we got to get these young men and men to catch up and get it done. As my wife says, real women do not have hot flushes, they got power surges. I have a little granddaughter named Maya, just turned 12. She says, Grandpa, I'm a preteen. just this October 11th. She just turned 12. And she's fascinating to me. I said, Maya, what are your favorite subjects? She says, I love math, I love science, and I love art. So I looked at my little boy, my little macho boy, hey, Jake, come here to your grandpa. What are your favorite subjects? He says, lunch and recess. Women are going to rule. But more importantly, he's going to take men and women in effective, positive relationships, getting education done for everybody. The whole idea that somehow white men don't want to share, you got to get rid of that nonsense. The fact is that every major institution in this country founded by white males, and we seek to make a larger contribution. Right now, this freedom of speech was put there by white males, and consequently, our democracy, the democratic tools in our republic must include an appreciation for all of us. And in view of the fact that systems benefit men at the expense of everyone else, we now have to make those systems inclusive. But why not start with gratitude before expressing grievances? Because it is together that we succeed, and together we can do more. Are you with me? Give me a band. And then the only thing that people ever knew from the popular culture about Puerto Ricans came out of the West Side Story. I've seen that movie 3 times, and brothers and sisters in the educational field, I can tell you this: no Latino could have written that script for that flick. I saw it 3 times, and there's no way that you can go into a Latino neighborhood, call for Maria, and only have one window open. I want you to say, if we're normal, everybody, if we're normal.
If you're normal.
We may have faulty assumptions about each other.
We may have faulty assumptions about each other.
And that will compromise our mission.
And that will compromise our mission.
So the reason why we're here is not because we are evil and racist and homophobic and rankist. The reason why we must continue to have these capital day events is to increase our cultural competencies so that we can transcend and improve upon what we were given before. And so in that spirit, if we're normal, we need to have additional competencies. Very quickly, let me just simply say that I was not supposed to make it. My mom and daddy divorced. And Dad, he drank a lot. You know why people take drugs, legal or illegal? To take a leave of absence from reality. My grandfather had been a police officer, killed in line of duty, and he was in Harlem, and he was black, and he was poor in the 30s. And his mom died of a heart attack, grandma. So he was orphaned by 11. He was black, he was poor, he was heartbroken, he lost his hero. And he became an emotional cripple. And he was smart, he was a mechanic. But he always sought to take a leave of absence from reality. So he could not give me what he did not have. My mama came from the hills of Puerto Rico, in the coffee bean region of Puerto Rico. And she didn't have much formal education. And because they divorced and didn't know really what to do, she took us back to her native Puerto Rico and gave us away to strangers. And when you take a little boy, 5, 6 years of age, living in the homes of strangers, they don't have the protections that we know how to give our children and the people that are closest to us. So that's when we experience abuse. That's when we experience poverty. And my brother, he had a good body. I was a late bloomer. I did not develop into exotic manhood till late in life. But my brother became a gang leader. I got to tell you something. When you can't be good about being good, you'll be good about being bad, because all of us got to be good about something.
Yes, that's right.
If you can't get your name on the wall with a diploma, you'll get spray painted and get your name on the wall anyway. And if there's no family among your relatives, then you go to the street and you create family in the streets that we call gangs. And if you can't make it in the legal economy, you'll make it in the illegal economy. And if you don't do it with your brains, you do it with your fists or your genitals, and everybody loses. It's out of that reality that my brother goes to prison and then dies of violence. My other brother made junkies of 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds. My sister's first husband died of an overdose. The second, cirrhosis of the liver. The third, she stabbed to death defending herself from a brutal beating. I have 9, and by the way, my brother that did the gang, the drug thing, simply disappeared from the face of the earth. And so, I had 9 scars in my body. By the way, we were so poor, somebody broke into our little apartment and didn't take anything. I mean, that's cold. So in poverty, abused, and incompetent in 2 languages, for I spoke the language of the poor, informal black English. I was speaking what I was taught. I was speaking what connected me to family. And to that degree, I was speaking the language that did not get me educated. Then I spoke Spanglish, the informal language of the poor from the body. So I was incompetent in 2 languages. My parents could not give me what they did not have. My mama would disappear sometimes to force my father to take us so that he would understand that he had to provide more money. So one day, I'm 12 years old, I come home from school and my mama had disappeared. And it took me 1.5 years to find her. And then she hooked up with this guy. And that's when he murdered my little brother who was 3 years of age. I remember going to the funeral home. And I looked inside and I saw the little casket and I couldn't go in. I rushed back to the South Bronx, 626 Prospect Avenue, and just sobbed and cried my heart out. And I never went to the funeral, and to this day I don't know where he was buried. So out of all of that, and then my mom runs away from New York. We went to Jersey for a while and wound up in the west side of the city of Chicago by Roosevelt Road in Kedzie. And I got to be 17. By that time, I'm a high school dropout. My dream is to get into the military. And so it came to pass that when you're 17 years of age, if your guardian signs and gives you permission, you didn't need a high school diploma. And I wanted to become an air policeman. I wanted to shed my identity as a dangerous urban male. I sought a uniform from the United States Air Force to be an air police officer. And all that I wanted to do was to serve my country, go to faraway countries, and have my uniform and buy me a 1955 Ford Victoria. No, it's not a classic thing. We're just 3 years old. So I kissed people goodbye, told them that I was going to join the military, and flunked the test. I was heartbroken, and my mama visited a Seventh-day Adventist church, the Italian church in Chicago. And there was a chaplain from Hinsdale Hospital. And she says, "Chaplain, my boy is heartbroken. He was going to go in the military, and he didn't do well. He's got to wait 4 months till he takes the test over again. But he's so embarrassed that he kissed and said goodbye to people and didn't make it, that he doesn't want to come out of that damp basement where we live." And he said, "Well, have him come to this hospital, and he can work there for 4 months and then rethink his options." And it was there that my life changed. I met a tiny little lady with a long bony finger by the name of Mary Yamasaki. She was my boss. I was making all of 95 cents an hour. And I'll never forget, she was just outraged that I didn't have a high school diploma, that I was not planning to go to college. Her people were put in relocation camps in the United States of America. She still believed in education. She got into my face and she said, "Son, you gotta go back to high school. You got to graduate from high school, and then you got to graduate from college. Graduate from where?
College.
High school, and then what? College. And then she said something that floored me. But you will not do well in school. So I did one of these things that black folks do, like what it is. You got to graduate from high school and college, but what? You won't do well in school. So I said, what you talking about, Ms. Yamasaki? Why am I not going to do well in school? Is it because I'm stupid? And I'll never forget the tiny little lady with the long bony finger, with her convictions, looked into my face and she says, son, it's not intelligence that you lack. You simply do not have enough words by which to be educated. Words, words, what are words? And she says, noises that are pregnant with meaning. That stopped me cold. I was stunned. She had said something that I did not know how to make any sense of. Words are what? Noises that are what? Pregnant with meaning. And the way you get educated is by your ability to understand that educators got 3,500 words. Educators got 4,000 words. Educators use 5,000 words. And people from poverty, by virtue of coming from the hurtful conditions of poverty, come in with 1,500, 1,000, 2,000 words. That means that when you show up to school, the textbooks got 3,500 words or more, and you only have 1,700 words. No matter how intelligent you are, you cannot be educated, because these noises that are pregnant with meaning called words, in them, you need to take them, you need to own them, and then you need to grow. And the problem is, no matter how intelligent you are, you will fail if you don't have enough words. Now keep this in mind. Children up from preschool to the 3rd grade learn how to read. From the 4th grade on, they read to learn. So from up to the 3rd grade, you learn to read, and after the 4th grade, you read to learn. The reason why our children fail is not because they lack intelligence, it's because they don't know how to read. Children learn to read in the lap of their parents. My Maya, 2 summers ago, I don't know how she was able to do it, but she read 3 Harry Potters. My children, my grandkids have never known a time when they get into a car, they sit in the back and they're strapped in their seats. They've never known a time when they have not done that, and they've never known a time that before they go to bed, they have a book read to them, and now they do their own reading. Well, I got news for you. Those kids develop word power. And in the summer, they go to mind-expanding recreational activities. And further, they participate at the dinner table. Consequently, the things they learn during the regular academic year get reinforced at home. And the long summer break, they don't fall behind because they keep getting reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. Not so from people from poverty. I have never remembered a book being read when I was growing up as a young person. I found a book once in the street about planets, and the man that my mother lived with worked in one of the Midtown hotels, and he came home with a book that one of the guests had left, and those were the only 2 books of my childhood that I remember. And then we had some comic books and stuff like that. But by and large, I did not come to school prepared with the amount of words and the appreciation for what it takes to be developed and to become educated. So I decided that school was no place to be somebody. So I quit, and I wanted to join the military until Mary Yamasaki and her long bony finger told me that I had to read and to read and to read what your parents could not give you because they didn't have it. You're going to have to get it through books by reading and reading and reading. And every time you see a word you don't understand, think of it as a brick that hides the sunshine of understanding. And she gave me my first dictionary, and she said, son, with this you can crush bricks. So I said, and read when? Because we thought we were very busy in those days. We had Slinky. We jumped rope. We watched a little black and white TV. We listened to Dick Biondi, rock and roll, WLS, the world's largest store, Sears, WLS. And I'll never forget, she looked at me and she made a pie chart of my time. And there were 2 hours unaccounted for. And she said, son, that's your reading time. On weekends, take time to be holy. Don't put junk into your body. Think of it as the temple. And at the same time, read and read and read. And I'll never forget when I said, and read what? She said, read memoirs, biographies of people that had it tougher than you. Read about Jews who had to make it in spite of the Holocaust, who had to find meaning in concentration camps. Viktor Frankl's man's search for meaning would change my life forever. Read about former slaves like Frederick Douglass, who nevertheless, in spite of slavery, tricked little white boys and girls to teach them how to read and write so he could write his pardon and escape to freedom. And said, when you know how to read, you can experience freedom. Read about people that had it tougher than you. People who survived incest and abuse and war and immigration. And in spite of physical disabilities, made great contributions. And I said, why do you want me to read the stories of people that had it tougher than me? For 2 reasons. So you do not make a profession of feeling sorry for yourself. You need to understand that adversity builds character. You need to understand that if those folks make it in spite of greater adversity than you have, then you got no business making a profession of feeling sorry for yourself. And then she says, son, don't you ever forget, this country does not owe you a living. What it owes you is an opportunity, and you got to do your part so you can become educable to take advantage of that opportunity. So it came to pass that I read and crushed bricks. And in the process, I became educable. I was building my vocabulary. I was saying no to alcohol. I was saying no to cigarettes. I was saying no to promiscuous sex. I was saying yes to hard work. I was finding time and realizing that weekends were not to sleep in, but to get a competitive advantage. And so it came to pass that I had this guide. The next thing I know is that she made it possible for me to apply to a private boarding Christian academy run by the SDAs at the time of segregation. So I went to Broadview Academy. And he was there in this academy with his white kids. And I was very afraid. And then he wanted me to room with a white kid, so they gave me my own room. You figure. But it was there that I learned that in the hood, when we talk, we talk with our whole body. So I took a speech course because they were trying to figure out whether you had the right stuff to become an evangelist or a pastor. I just thought it was a speech course. So I went up there, hello, incompetent in 2 languages, but boy could outperform. And so I went up there and I gave my speech, and the son of a preacher man came after me, and God in his wisdom made him white and male. He said, Sam, wait up. And I couldn't believe it was him. Wait up, Sam. Man, do you know what you got? And it sounded like I had something contagious. What do I have? Man, you got stage presence. Your voice carries. You paint pictures with words. Your gestures are majestic. Man, teach me how to do that, and I'll teach you how to say it right. White boy said, listen to the sermons of great preachers. And there was one called E.E. Cleveland. And then there was Billy Graham. Man, he got me to go to the speech lab and to memorize the sermons of Billy Graham. And I got to tell you something, I got so good, and he got so good, we could preach just like Billy. Man, we go down to the farm, and we get an old drum, and we thought we were at Madison Square Garden. And there were 250 cows. And we preached those cows. We told those cows to pray for the one in front of them. He'll take you 3 minutes to come down just as you are. Cows go. And then there was a Scottish immigrant preacher. And he said, Sam, listen to the words of the best speakers of the English language, because that's the only way you're going to catch up for all the words that you didn't listen to from middle class America. And so I was learning middle class standard English with a Scottish accent. Was it really worth it to storm the beaches of Norway? Was it worth it to live a deck in Salerno? Was it worth it to fly to the Axfield skies of Berlin? By God's grace, beloved, it must be worth it. And surely when our boys return from this horrible war, they must find a better America, one that has experienced true repentance. For remember, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And then there was a senator from Massachusetts who had the audacity to believe that he could be president. And he had good hair. I preached just like Senator Kennedy. We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, signifying both beginning and end. Let the work of forth from this time and place that the torch be passed to a new generation of Americans. So, I learned middle class talk. I learned to read. I learned to network. And I learned that it was all about relationships. And that's when I started to excel. And I paid attention to my courses. And eventually I graduated from high school alone. And then I went to college. Graduated alone. Took me 5.5 years to get through. Then the riots came. Mayor Daley was looking for someone that could talk to black people and brown people and white people. So they canceled my draft notice so I could work in Chicago. And then Harvard University decided that it would take all of us to get there. And so they interviewed 1,500 African Americans, Latinos, and indigenous people to see if we had the right stuff, even though we came through non-traditional sources. And that's how eventually I got accepted. They accepted 29, and I was one of them. And it was there that I met. It was there that I met my professor, who said, Sam, you got to come and see me. So I went to his office. He said, sit down, son. I said, what is it, Doc? He said, how'd you get in? I said, you know that don't sound right. No, he said, I don't mean any insult. How did Harvard University give the wisdom to realize that it's going to take all of us to make this country great? That we got to get off the dime. That we got to stop playing the segregation card. I'm glad that you're in my class. How'd you get in? I said, well, sir, Harvard is honoring the legacy and life of Martin Luther King Jr. and that generation of civil rights folks like Rosa Parks and all of the people that struggled. So I'm here because your university is honoring the legacy of Dr. King. He says, I would like to honor that legacy as well. I said, what do you propose to do? He says, I would like to be your mentor. I said, sir, with all due respect, what's a mentor? He said, that's an older, more experienced, wiser, generous spirit. What does that make me? He says, a younger, less experienced person with fire in the belly, hungry to matter, and eager to learn. I said, and why do I need a relationship with you? He says, son, because in our systems, we recruit people, but we don't always know how to grow them. And you're going to need somebody who's wiser and generous and more experienced to lead you. And I could only do that with your permission. And so he said, there are all kinds of landmarks. There are all kinds of things that you got to stop doing. You got to read more than other students because you bring less words. I said, I heard that before. And so he says, give me permission and I will guide you. And he was a conservative white male in one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And he got out of his comfort zones. And he said, son, it's all about relationships. If you trust me, I will guide you. And so it came to pass. I trusted him. He guided me. And when President Nixon appointed him to a high office, Washington, D.C., he took me with him. And he counseled me and guided me. And that's how I came educated. And I got my master's and my doctorate degree. And I'm just happy to tell you that I've come to develop a mantra. To go from poverty to the professions, you must first cross a bridge called books. You won't be able to do that unless you have a relationship. And it's to that spirit that I want to do that right now. And if you could do me a favor, it'll take a minute or less. But when I give you the signal, if you're physically able, I want you to shake hands in a spirit of relationship building and just go to two colleagues that are part of your circles of trust and say, we are in this thing together. And then I want you to take a look at two people that look suspicious. And I want you to get out of your comfort zone and shake hands with two people you don't know and say, let's build relationships. We're in this thing together. So everybody, please stand up. Get her done. It's all about relationships. Good people, I'm going to talk fast, so listen fast. I want you to understand that schools of education have lied to us. They have certified us and told us that we could educate everyone. And that's a lie. We can only educate those students that are learning ready at the middle class level. And if you're not ready at the middle class level, then we got to get them ready. And cherry picking talented students to go to a private charter school is not the answer. What we've got to be able to do, however, is say, what must I stop doing? If things are not working, what must I stop doing? I realized that things were not working with me, and my parents couldn't give me what they did not have, and I had an adult who built a relationship with me, and she told me I had to stop wasting my time and just coasting, that I had to stop ignoring books. And that's going to take innovation. It's going to take vision. So what I'm going to do is I want to get back to these quick, I'm not going to do these, let's move to the three things here. Keep going. We can't teach what we don't know. So you got to read some of this stuff. Go ahead. I think we can do that. Here are the faulty assumptions. Now, let me put it this way. I was going to give you a test. Since we don't have time, I want you to know that all the answers are false. This is test driven. All the answers are false. True or false? Students fail in school because they lack intelligence.
False.
They fail because they do not know how to read. They fail because they may not know how to build their vocabulary. They may fail because they don't have a relationship from a caring educator. And you don't have to be black to educate a black child.
That's right.
And you don't have to be white to educate a white child. What you got to do is be committed to the process of learning stuff so we can get her done, get mission done. True or false? Schools of education have prepared teachers to educate students across class lines. False. We have been taught to educate people that know how to read and that can learn how to read and up to the third grade and learn from reading from the fourth grade on. If they do not, then we got to figure out what we got to stop doing in order to get this stuff done. Hiring more racially, ethnic, diverse staff will close the achievement gap. True or false? False. False. You need to have diversity, but you need people that are very competent. Sometimes you hire a minority person that's not competent, and it's harder to get rid of them. Because they can claim and yell racism. And so it's a mess out there. But race does not qualify us for anything. However, if we belong to a group that has experienced rejection, we got to reject rejection. We need to be about forgiving. When Bill Clinton went and met with Nelson Mandela, and Nelson Mandela, as president of South Africa, took him to the prison where he had spent 27 years. Bill Clinton looked at him and you forgave them, and they stole your youth. Mr. Mandela said, Mr. President, if I had not forgiven them, I would still be their prisoner. So we gotta have people who God in His wisdom made brown and black and yellow and red and white. People who believe and people who don't believe. in the way others believe. But in the end, what we need to have are the cultural competencies. No matter what is your identity, without the competencies to grow children that are learning ready and children that are not, you will destroy with your feet what you build with your hands. So it's all about relationships. We need more heroic teachers like Jaime Escalante, and we need more charter schools like the Learning Zone and the Harlem Academy. True or false, to save education? No, what we need are systems that work. Thank God for heroic teachers, but just remember this. Anytime you have a heroic teacher, and that heroic teacher is David, that means that the school system is Goliath. We do not need heroic teachers. We need systems that work. And systems will work together when the union, the association, and the administrations, and the faculties, and the home, and the family, and the students, and the faith-based communities are all working together to get vision done. After the summer break, students are prepared to excel in grades that they have been promoted. Is that true or false? Not all students. The students that do not get reinforcement for what they have learned in school will lose 2 months. Students from the hurtful conditions of poverty lose 2 months during the summer of everything they have learned in their academic year. They lose how much? And it takes them 6 weeks to catch up. So it's not about reading 1 book or 2 books. You got to teach them how to read across the curriculum. If you teach physical education, teach them health, teach them to do exercises, teach them to stop pumping their bodies with all of that sugar. But have them choose 1 or 2 memoirs of people in sports while they're in physical education, so that they can also increase their vocabulary and learn critical thinking. So you got to put reading through the whole of the curriculum. Are you with me? Give me a bam. Schools must provide the same educational menu for all students. True or false? False. False. Make sure that you take the students who know their science and their math and their history and their English. Make them study buddies with the students that don't know that. Why? Because if you want your children to go to the best schools and to get scholarships, make them tutor math and science and English and history to the students that don't know it. That will help the student that doesn't know it, and it will make the students that know it own it. I want you to say, teach it once, learn it twice. So the best way to develop your best students is to coach those that need the assistance. The single most important question you need to ask in the classroom: if I give you an assignment to do at home, will there be somebody at home to help? And if the answer is no, then fix it by developing relationships with other students and with the community. Because it's not enough to give them a homework assignment when you know there's nobody at home that can help. So don't make that faulty assumption. Immigrants in the past used school systems. Immigrants today must do the same to get ahead. That true or false? That's false. It's false, ladies and gentlemen. That immigrants of all work with their backs. The first thing they did was go to work, and then their children went to school. It took 3 and 4 and 5 generations from the time somebody came from Europe to the time that somebody made it in college. It's just that the economy has changed, and today you need to work with your hands in your back long enough to go to school so that you can also work with your brains. And in that spirit, we have to stop thinking that bilingual education is about teaching kids not to learn English. Bilingual education is about making instruction understood so that they can learn the subject matter in their language while they learn the language of America and the language of American citizens, which is English. Students do not excel with their homework because their parents don't care. True or false? No, it's false because my mama, I used to be a fat little boy, huggable like a little teddy bear. And I didn't know much of the language when I came from Puerto Rico, back to Harvard, back to the Bronx. I'll never forget, my mama always tried hard to keep us together. She didn't always succeed. But I remember Miss Harmel, our arithmetic teacher. She taught, did her intellectual duty, and then, as every good educator must, you got to give homework. Homework means, now that I taught you, go home and demonstrate that you now know how to apply what I taught you. I missed out on her explanation because I lacked the language. So she gave 14 arithmetic problems to take home. 14. I did the first 4. And I knew they were wrong. And she passes by and sees her little fat little boy in crisis. Said, hijito, ¿qué es lo que te pasa? My son, what is the matter? I said, Mommy, we got to do these 14 problems. I did the first 4. I got to do 10 more. And I don't know what to do. And she took her fat little boy, lifted me up, and put me in the safest place on the whole earth, on her lap. And I'll never forget. She took number 2 pencil, and she started to work on the next one. It took the longest time. And she finished it, and I gave her a kiss. And then she did the next one, and I gave her another kiss. She was kissing, I was doing. She was doing, I was kissing. And then she did all 10. And when she left, I copied all of them in my own handwriting, because I'm a Puerto Rican, but I'm not a fool. Came back. The teacher put 4 red X marks in the 4 that I had done. Why? They were wrong. And she put 10 X marks in the one that my mama had done. So I called Victor, who spoke the 2 languages. I said, Victor, you tell the teacher that I did the first 4. And I know that those were wrong. But what Miss Harmel doesn't know is that my mama did the next thing. And so Victor explained it to her, and she said, you tell Sammy his mama does not know what she's doing. So she said something about my mama. So I said something about her mama. And stupid Victor translated. That's how I met my first prison. Now what's wrong with this picture? A single loving mom. Is that a plus or a minus? A teacher who gave explanations, homework, and feedback. Is that a plus or a minus? An intelligent boy who would graduate from Harvard and become a consultant to 3 presidents of the United States of America. Is that a plus or a minus? And what happened in that moment? Did we have a plus or we have a minus? We had a minus. Intelligent people, loving parent, intelligent kid, professional teacher, member of the union. 3 pluses wound up with a minus because we all lack the cultural competencies to build the relationships to get it done. And so parents may not help their kids, not because they don't care, because they can't give their kids what they don't have. And we've got to build relationships in those schools to get it done. So it's almost done. It's almost done. So I'm going to real fast. Parents don't get involved, not because they don't care, because they have kids that don't speak the language. We got to figure out how to get that done. Racism is the reason why white educators may be failing students in college. That's false. Lacking cultural competencies will. Multicultural education is soft. It's not soft. We got to figure out how to grow everybody. And the reason why brown and black kids fail is not because they're brown or black. It's because they're often the first in their generation that must excel in middle class places of learning. And that is true also in college. So no child left behind means what? No teacher left alone. No parent left apart. No principal left aside. And no district left unfunded. Listen carefully. This coming April of 2011, we're going to have the first conference in Milwaukee for educating and graduating Latino high school students. We hope that you will be represented. You write to me, write to our organization, you write to the Council for the Spanish Speaking. You need to send a delegation. How to educate immigrant kids today and newcomers, Latino kids, and how do you get them involved? We hope, and no one will speak, no one will have a workshop there that is not about research, grounded strategies and best practices for educating and graduating high school students. The role of parents, the role of the community, the role of the school, and the role of the students in getting that done. So we sincerely hope you keep that and you come to Milwaukee. We have 2 days right there by Mitchell Field, close by. And we're going to bring the best talent from around the country to get this stuff done. If you don't read, you can't lead. Fact of the matter is, you can't build relationships unless you realize that it's not enough to be certified. You also need additional competencies. John Maxwell said, if you think you're a leader and when you look back, no one is following, maybe you're just taking a walk. Understanding poverty, teach like your hair is on fire, the lost dropout, beating the odds, how the poor get to college. These are the 2 books that deal with the language dimension for educating kids. White kids know and don't know what they need to know in order for us to educate them. Meaningful differences. And then it goes on, educating Latino kids, white children. Come on, the outliers. Lesbian and gay kids. The essential conversation between parents and the schools. The issue of bullying. Warriors don't cry. Whatever it takes. I think there's something to be learned from the leaders of some of this charter school movement. But one of the things, when you read Jeffrey Canada, what he says was the reason why I was able to make it is because I became a reader, and a reader. So there's lessons to be learned from different sources. When generations collide, the mindset, and participated in a reading circle. Dr. Frank Hale from this community, worked at the Ohio State University. He put together a book, What Works in Racial Diversity, and I have a chapter in that book. And I have this book, 10 Steps to the Head of the Class. When you get out of here, if you go back to John Mason's, to the book suite, he has 21 of my books that are autographed. And he'll take orders, and we'll send you as many books as you want, autographs called 10 Steps to the Head of the Class. It's one thing to tell kids how to study, it's another one to tell them how. By the way, if you take my email, okay, in view of what you have learned, what must you stop doing? What books will you have to read? What steps will you require? You're going to have to deal with that. We would have a discussion, which we don't have time. Samuel, I'll remain back here for those of you who want to come up and touch me. Say Samuel@Betances.com. Say that.
Samuel@Betances.com.
You can write that in your program. And if you write to me, I will send you a chapter of my book, my upcoming book called Crossing a Bridge Called Books. If you say, Dr. B, send me a copy of your chapter, Crossing a Bridge Called Books. It's in draft form, but you're going to love it because it includes my story and how I became a product of reading. The other thing is, ma'am, I can send it to the Columbus Education Association electronically, and I will leave electronically this whole program so that if you want to have access to it, you can have it and add value to your journey. But if you write to me, samuel@betances.com, I will send you a copy of my chapter, Crossing a Bridge Called Books. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Continue to work, build your relationships, support your union, and above all else, develop new strategies, because for the first time, we got to work with the kids from urban schools, because white middle-class America and black middle-class America and Hispanic middle-class Americans are not having enough kids. So we got to figure out how to educate the people that are having kids, because that's the future of Columbus, the future of Ohio, and the future of the United States of America. God bless you all.